I think it's time we just had a little chat about telematics or black box insurance. So here in the UK, there's a situation you can have with an insurance company where you have a little box fitted to your car that tracks your driving. And depending on when you drive, how you brake, how you steer, it builds up a picture of how safe a driver you are. And if you're a good driver, you get a cheaper premium. If you're a bad driver, you pay more. In principle, that sounds very good. And generally, younger drivers are going with this because their premiums are extortionately expensive. Young friends of mine have been charged over £1,000 to £2,000 for a very basic 1 litre car in their first year. Let me know what your first insurance was, what the cost was. I think my first policy, and I'm talking about over 30 years ago, was only about £700, which was a lot of money back then. You could buy an awful lot of sweets for that. But nowadays, that equivalent car would probably be 3 or 4 times that to insure today. The telematics boxes, sometimes you just have an app on your phone. Sometimes there is a box that is actually fitted to your car. It uses sensors, accelerometers, decelerometers, gyroscopes effectively, and also GPS. It might use GPS data. And the kind of things that these boxes typically monitor is your speed. Now, from the GPS data, they know what road you're on and what the prevailing speed is. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's over sort of 80-90% accurate all of the time. So that allows them to build up a picture of whether you always exceed the speed limit. Also, acceleration. Do you accelerate really hard up to the speed limit? Does that make you a bad driver? Sudden harsh braking as well. Does that make you a bad driver? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But it monitors really how aggressive we are with the throttle and with the brake, and it gives us a rating accordingly as to how safe a driver we are. Cornering. If we tend to do most corners on just 2 wheels, the black box will detect that, and you'll probably be flagged up as a dangerous or aggressive driver, and that's not really a good situation to be in. Gentle cornering, gentle acceleration, gentle braking, they're the things the insurance company want you to be doing. It gives you a lot of time to react to problems, to stay fully in control of the car, and reduces the likelihood they will have of paying out a claim. Some policies also had curfews. Younger drivers may have some sort of time limit. They can't use the car at night, or if they use the car a lot at night, they may have a higher premium to pay because the statistics show that these young drivers have more accidents at night. And it may just track how many miles you do, whether you do lots of short journeys, whether you're an infrequent driver or a frequent driver, and it builds up a picture of the overall experience of use of your car. Now, a few myths that have cropped up with telematics is things like you can't drive at night. Well, that depends on the policy. Most policies, then they don't really care when you drive. If you're a young driver, you may get a discount if you avoid night journeys extensively, but you can still drive it at night if there was an emergency. Check your policy wording, but most policies have some provision in there that you can use it outside of usual hours. It doesn't restrict the roads that you can drive on, although it is monitoring which road you're on and the prevailing speed limit. There's no restriction there, like you can't drive on motorways, or you're restricted to just the town locally and you can't go any further than that. That is just a myth. There's no actual physical restrictions applied from this data. You might have a policy with a mileage limit, but that is fairly rare. When you take out a policy, they will generally ask you how many miles a year you do, and that's often not a limit. It's just an indicator as to how much you'll be using the car, and they may ask for a split between business mileage and domestic mileage. It just allows them to rate the policy accordingly, and if you're a little bit over that, in most cases it doesn't really matter at renewal, and it doesn't tend to affect the premium that much. But if we're going to be substantially over the stated mileage, and that was a condition of the policy, we would need to let them know. And if they had a telematics box fitted or a black box, they would have a good indicator already as to how we're doing on our annual mileage. Moving on to the app-based insurers, Churchill Drive Sure, Privilege Drive Expert, and ZegoSense, they all use your mobile phone. You've got accelerometers in your mobile phone, you've got GPS data in your phone. The only downside really is they don't know if you were driving or you were a passenger in the car, whereas a black box, actually it's connected to your car, so it'll only be triggered and monitor when you're actually in your car. It's a better indicator of you as a driver. But most of these apps allow you to say whether you're driving or not, and they do expect you to provide some data. Some policies have been cancelled, declared void, or penalties have been imposed cost-wise because drivers haven't submitted the data at the required intervals. And often it's a bit unfair there because it's usually down to a technical issue. They've dropped their phone, there's some sort of Bluetooth connectivity issue or a network connectivity issue on their phone, or they're just out of signal area. It just happens to be where they live. They don't have very good signal. But there are obviously a few drivers who deliberately switch off the tracking so that they can do whatever they want behind the wheel, and then they just drive like granny when they turn the app on for a couple of drives per week to give good data to the insurance company. And they're wise to that. They kind of know that you're going to be cooking the books, as it were. Will having telematics or a black box make you a safer driver? Well, actually, subconsciously, it does seem to improve drivers' standards because you're being watched all the time and you feel you're being watched all the time. It does make you a bit more paranoid. You keep a closer eye on your speed. You keep a closer eye on the cornering and the braking, and you try to anticipate road conditions ahead a bit more. But many drivers who've had this for 3 or 4 years no longer think about this telematics or this black box. They've already just established a pattern of driving and it's safe. They're happy with it. They're getting good feedback from the insurance company and they're keeping their premiums low, and they don't worry too much about their driving style. Is it for you? Well, if you're an old person like me, insurance is relatively cheap. I can buy almost any car I want and it'll be unlikely for me to pay more than about £500 or £600 a year to insure it. And that really just reflects age, experience, and the fact that I'm not a boy racer anymore. I don't take chances. I try to be a careful driver. But if we're a young driver, it can make a big difference to the premium. Substantial percentages can be knocked off, and it's certainly worth asking the question. If our first car insurance is going to be £1,500, £2,000, then if it saves 10 to 30% off the premium, it's certainly worth thinking about, and that makes quite a substantial saving overall. Before we agree to one, check the policy wording. Check what the telematics is actually recording, what the insurance company are looking for, and the effect that's going to have on the premium. Will your monthly premium change? Will you pay a substantial penalty at the end of the year if you're a particularly bad driver? Or are you just building up a discount for the next renewal if you prove to be a safe driver? The latter situation is generally what a lot of insurance companies do. They will usually offer you a cheaper premium, but they do require you to keep your driving within their required standard. Let me know what you think of black boxes and telematics. Would you consider one, or is it something you would avoid like the plague? If you had one, would you be paying a cheaper premium, or would your premium go up? Be honest, let us know in the comments. I love reading your comments. Thanks so much for all the likes, all the feedback, all the comments, and please boot that like button. That really does help. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already so you don't miss out on the great content that I've got planned. And I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.